Welcome to This Explainer. I am super excited to have you here today. If you are looking to master high-level AI product strategy without any of the fluff, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're breaking down one of the absolutely highest impact responsibilities of any AI product manager or tech leader, and that's deciding exactly how to deliver an AI capability to your users. We aren't just talking about what feature to build, we're getting into the critical mechanics of execution. We're talking about the choices that literally determine whether your product scales gracefully or just completely drowns in technical debt. Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this. You're sitting in a big leadership meeting, and suddenly you hear, "We need an AI chatbot for customer support in 6 months." If you work in tech, you've probably heard some variation of this directly from your CEO or stakeholders, right? It's a high-stakes, real-world scenario, and the clock is ticking. And the very moment that request is made, a massive strategic fork in the road appears. How do you actually pull this off? To tackle that, we're going to systematically break down the playbook. We'll quickly cover the strategy dilemma, the 3 options, the evaluation framework, some real-world examples, the decision matrix, and finally wrap up with pitfalls and metrics. Starting off with Section 1, the strategy dilemma. Delivering AI requires a fundamental shift in how we think, because the challenge isn't just designing the feature, it's how you source the underlying intelligence. Because the impacts of this decision, they're absolutely massive. We are talking about dictating your time to market, controlling your overall cost structure, and basically deciding whether you're inadvertently piling up technical debt or building a true competitive advantage. Getting this wrong can waste millions of dollars. It can literally set your roadmap back by years. But a good decision builds a lasting strategic moat around your entire product. So, Section 2, the 3 options. How do we make that good decision? It really all starts by deeply understanding the 3 primary paths you have to choose from. Path number 1 is to build. This means developing the AI capability entirely internally. Your engineering and machine learning teams are creating the solution from scratch, or maybe pulling together open source components. And let me tell you, this is a massive workflow. It means you have to painstakingly gather proprietary data, design features, train the models, rigorously evaluate performance, deploy, and then, this is the big one, continuously monitor and maintain the whole system against model drift. But the huge payoff is that you own the technology, you own the roadmap, and you own all the intellectual property. When we weigh the pros and cons here, the contrast is pretty sharp. On the plus side, you get maximum competitive differentiation. You get full customization of the user experience, absolutely zero vendor lock-in, and total IP ownership. But man, the cons are heavy. It comes with incredibly high development costs and a much, much slower time to market because, well, you're starting from zero. You're also going to face an intense need for specialized, highly expensive AI talent, plus the permanent burden of keeping that infrastructure running smoothly. Path number 2 is to buy. This is your fast track. Buying means purchasing an existing, off-the-shelf commercial solution right from a vendor. Think of tools like Salesforce Einstein, Zendesk AI, or AWS Recognition. The real beauty here is that the vendor handles all the heavy lifting. They maintain the core technology, they update the models, they manage the servers. Your team's only job is simply to integrate those APIs into your existing user workflow. Looking at the trade-offs for buying, you instantly get rapid implementation, a significantly lower engineering effort, and proven reliability with predictable vendor support. But the risks are substantial. You're inherently limited in how much you can customize the tool. You might run into feature gaps that the vendor simply refuses to fill. And worse, you are always at risk of vendor lock-in, meaning if they decide to drastically raise their pricing down the line, trying to migrate away could be an absolute technical nightmare. And finally, path number 3 is to partner. In the AI space, partnering is incredibly common, mainly due to the sheer massive investments required to build foundational models these days. Partnering means collaborating closely with a tech provider, like plugging into OpenAI's powerful APIs or integrating Anthropic's Claude. You don't own the underlying foundational model itself, but you create immense proprietary value by wrapping their advanced capabilities into your unique application and user experience. The pros of partnering? They're huge. You get incredibly fast innovation, immediate access to cutting-edge technology, and drastically lower R&D costs. But, of course, there's a catch. It forces you to rely heavily on another company. You're vulnerable to their API outages, and you have to be super strict about data governance, making sure you aren't accidentally leaking sensitive customer data to a third-party model. Crucially, your product also becomes entirely dependent on a roadmap that you have absolutely no control over. All right, Section 3, Evaluation Framework. We've covered the theory. Now let's get into the exact evaluation framework an elite product manager uses to make this call. Now, what's really interesting about this is how these 7 distinct dimensions actually interact. First, ask yourself, is this capability core to your competitive advantage? If yes, building is usually the way to go. How fast do you need it? Urgent timelines definitely favor buying. Do you have the internal ML talent? If not, well, building is pretty much out of the question. Next up is data. Custom AI requires high-quality, proprietary data. Without it, you're just not going to be an off-the-shelf solution. But you also have to weigh regulatory requirements. If you're in healthcare or finance, buying might carry unacceptable compliance risks. And finally, think about cost and scalability. Can you actually afford the long-term compute costs of maintaining this model when your user base grows tenfold? Moving to Section 4, Real-World Case Studies. Let's validate this framework by reverse engineering the strategic decisions of some of the top tech companies out there. Let's kick things off with a textbook build strategy. Netflix. They built their own massive recommendation system. Why? Because personalized recommendations aren't just a fun little feature for them, they are the absolute core engine of their customer retention. Plus, they sit on mountains of proprietary, highly specific viewing data that literally no one else has. Outsourcing that engine to a third-party vendor would be handing over their greatest competitive edge on a silver platter. Next up, we've got Shopify, which is honestly a masterclass in the partner strategy. Instead of dropping billions of dollars to train their own massive foundation models from scratch, Shopify integrates multiple external AI providers. Partnering allows them to innovate incredibly fast while keeping R&D costs perfectly in check. And crucially, it keeps them agile. They can easily swap out AI providers as the underlying technology evolves, completely sidestepping massive technical debt. And for the buy strategy, just imagine a small startup that needs optical character recognition, OCR, for document scanning. OCR is not their secret sauce, right? It's just a utility they need to make their app function. For a team like that, buying a commercial OCR service from a cloud provider is the fastest, cheapest, and most efficient route. Building an OCR model from scratch would be a massive, completely unjustifiable waste of their engineering hours. Bringing all of this together, we arrive at Section 5, the decision matrix. Think of this as the ultimate tool for your strategic toolkit. It synthesizes all these complex trade-offs into one clear, actionable grid. And this brilliantly illustrates the push and pull of AI strategy. When you look at it, upfront cost and vendor lock-in almost perfectly inversely correlate. Building gives you maximum competitive advantage and zero vendor lock-in, but it demands high upfront capital, heavy maintenance, and really rare internal expertise. Conversely, buying is incredibly fast and cheap on day one, but your customization is basically zero and vendor lock-in is extremely high. Partnering sits comfortably right in the middle. You get fast deployment and medium customization, but you share the maintenance and carry a moderate lock-in risk. We are now entering the home stretch, Section 6, Pitfalls and Metrics. Because knowing how to make the decision is only half the battle. You also have to know exactly what can go wrong and how to measure when things are actually going right. Let's be real for a second, we have all seen these common mistakes. The most notorious one, the engineering trap of building custom AI just because. Let's face it, engineers love playing with shiny new toys. Teams will literally spend 8 months building a bespoke model when a basic API would have solved 95% of the problem on day one. Other massive pitfalls, accidentally outsourcing your core business differentiators, totally ignoring the total cost of ownership over a 5-year horizon, or severely underestimating the sheer engineering effort it takes just to integrate a purchase solution into your legacy codebase. To avoid those traps, you have to measure success relentlessly. Don't just ask if the feature was delivered on schedule. You need to ask, did the total cost of ownership align with your initial forecasts, or are compute costs totally spiraling out of control? Most importantly, look at hard ROI and customer adoption. Is this AI capability actually creating measurable business value, or is it just a ghost town? And hey, if you partnered or bought, you absolutely must strictly monitor vendor reliability and SLA compliance to make sure their downtime isn't ruining your user experience. I really want to slow down here for a second, because there is an ultimate paradigm-shifting rule that the best AI product managers live by. Don't just ask, should we build or buy? Follow this pattern. Build your differentiators, buy your commodities, and partner for rapidly evolving foundational technologies where external innovation is always going to outpace what you could realistically do internally. This simple rule ensures that you're focusing your expensive, limited engineering effort only where it creates the greatest long-term enterprise value. So I want to leave you with this lingering question to evaluate your own roadmap today. Take a hard look. Which parts of your AI stack create a true, defensible, competitive advantage, and which parts are just commodities? Answer that honestly, and your strategy will practically write itself. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.